Hello guys, welcome to ToK today and welcome to Bangkok. So today we're going to have a look at the exhibition prompt, who owns knowledge? It's a pretty straightforward little question. It's really nicely self-contained. Now obviously the thing with this question is that we need to define owns. What do IB mean by owns? Or more seriously, what do you mean by owns? Because the IB are asking you to define it yourself. Now I'm going to define it today as being able to define or categorize knowledge for yourself and for others. So if you own knowledge, you are able to define it and categorize it for yourself as the knower and for other people in other knowledge communities. I'm going to look at this in three ways. We're going to look at the first object, which demonstrates that the producer of knowledge owns knowledge. And then we're going to look at the second way, which is the idea that the knower owns knowledge, the person who knows owns knowledge. And the third way, the third object, is going to look at the idea that intention or context owns knowledge. We'll get into each of these as we go. So the first object that I'm presenting is the printing press, and specifically printing presses that were used to print pamphlets during the French Revolution of 1789. And I'm using the printing press to show the claim that the producer of knowledge is the person who owns knowledge, because the printing press has successively over history, has changed knowledge in knowledge communities. So we know that the printing press was instrumental in the Reformation and the rise of Protestantism in Europe in the 15th and 16th centuries. We know that the printing press was instrumental in changing ideas around workers' rights in England from the 16th, 17th and 18th century, the Tolpuddle martyrs, all of that sort of thing. We know that the printing press was instrumental in the French Revolution in the 18th century with the printing of pamphlets, changing the views of knowledge communities. And the argument here is that it's the person who has control over the printing press who owns knowledge. I mean, we could say this is the same today for the owners of newspapers. The owners of newspapers, they get to write in their newspapers what they want, or the owners of digital media channels get to put on the digital media channel their views, and then those views influence the views of knowers or knowledge communities. So what we have here is we have a sort of reduction of personal knowledge or a constraining of personal knowledge, and the power, and it's looking at the power of distribution, the power of distributing knowledge. There's obviously a link here with the theme of technology. It is the technology, I'm arguing that it's the technology which causes the change of knowledge. Okay, so on to our second object. And the second object that I'm presenting here today is the 1938 War of the Worlds radio broadcast in the USA. So in 1938, a radio station in America broadcast a fictional account, obviously fictional, of H.G. Wells' book War of the Worlds, which is about aliens invading the Earth. But people took this as being a real news broadcast. They thought aliens actually were invading, and some people started to sort of panic and run out of their houses and try to leave their town or their city, ring the emergency services, ring the police to get help. People thought that there was a real alien invasion. So I'm presenting this object to demonstrate the knowledge claim that it is actually the knower who owns knowledge, not the producer, but the knower who owns knowledge. Because the intention of the producer of the knowledge may change when the knower interprets that knowledge. So in this case, The producer of the knowledge was the radio station who produced a drama piece, a fictional drama piece, but it was reinterpreted by the knower, and in doing so, they owned that knowledge. Remember, our definition of own is being able to define the meaning or the categorization of knowledge itself. Now, I think that the means of knowing, or the ways of knowing, or the mode of knowing, or the medium is particularly important here, because in 1938, radio was still a fairly new technology. Okay, certainly compared to today, it was new. Radio was seen as an official form of communication. It's where people went to get their news from. It was also seen as entertainment, but it was certainly an official mode of communication. So when people heard this information coming out on the radio, then they were more likely to interpret it in the context of that mode of communication being an official form of communication. So maybe it's not just the knower who owns knowledge, but maybe the means by which knowledge is distributed also partly owns knowledge. And that smoothly takes us on to our third object. So the third object that I'm presenting here today is dynamite, as invented by the Swedish chemist Alfred Nobel in 1863. So Alfred Nobel was a humanitarian and a peace lover, and he created dynamite. He created dynamite to help with mining, to help with land clearance, to try to improve productivity of mining so that we could get resources more easily, and to help improve land clearance so that we could produce crops more cheaply and with less, with less costs. And he produced dynamite for humanitarian reasons. Now, obviously, dynamite is used often for not humanitarian reasons, for violence and in conflict. So I produced this object to demonstrate the claim that it might be intention or context that owns knowledge. Not the producer, not the knower, but intention or context. And intention is a subset of context here. So let's talk about intention first. The intention of the knowledge producer may be distorted by the knower, and the intention of the knower may be distorted by wider context. So in this case, Alfred Nobel's intention was literally noble, spelt differently. Alfred Nobel's intention was humanitarian and it was peaceful, but that was distorted by the knower, the people who got their hands on dynamite and who used dynamite for violence, for non-humanitarian reasons. Now, why did that happen? And this is where context comes in. So other factors after the production of knowledge may change the intention of the knower, of the producer, and may distort the original intentions and distort the original knowledge of the knower. So in this case, context could be wider social values, it could be the intention of a knowledge community, it could be time, it could be the purpose for which knowledge was made, any of those wider issues which are both structural and non-structural, such as time and social values and so on. They can change the nature of knowledge itself. So today, I've brought you 3 claims demonstrated by 3 objects. The first object, the printing press, for the claim that the knower owns knowledge. The second object, the 1938 War of the Worlds radio broadcast, to show the idea that the knower owns knowledge. And then the third object, dynamite, to demonstrate that maybe intention or context owns knowledge. I hope that you guys found that useful, and I hope that it's a good model for doing your exhibition. Have fun putting your exhibition together. If you need any more help, then get in touch with ToK today. If you like this video, then I hope that you can hit like, and if you can hit subscribe, I'd be super happy. I look forward to seeing you again the next time on ToK Today. Goodbye.